Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome to this new episode of the Liquid Courage podcast. I hope you enjoyed the first one. Oh, and I hope you enjoyed the new series that I've been releasing. I released the first one last week, Never Have I Ever. The first episode was with Dustin George, who you might remember from the bonus episode of season 1. So if you haven't checked that out yet, do that before or after this, whatever you want. Something else exciting from my life recently is I went to go see the Barbie movie. And don't worry, I will not say any spoilers. I hate spoilers, so I will not say them. You might be able to tell how I feel about the movie from my tone in my previous sentence. However, I will not give any spoilers. I just wanted to talk about the experience of going to the Barbie movie because it felt sort of surreal. So I went to the movie with some friends. There was about a handful of us, and we were all decked out in our Barbie attire, pink as much as we possibly could. And we go to the theater and everybody's dressed in their Barbie attire. And everyone's saying, hi, Barbie, hi, Ken, hi, Barbie, hi, Ken. It was cute. It was very culty. I don't know. It was community. I don't know. But when I got into the actual theater, the actual cinema, the room with the movie screen, and I looked around, it was a sold out theater. There were so many people. And I had sort of that same experience that you have when you're like out of the city and you look at the sky and you see all the stars and you realize like, I am so insignificant in a comforting, relieving way. Like I'm just one of the Barbie t-shirts among hundreds. I don't know how many people were in the cinema, but I am unoriginal in this way, in this group right now. And nothing is too huge of a deal to be catastrophic. I don't know. It's kind of a half-formed thought in my head, but it was a really impactful moment. Partly it also, the fact that we all looked the same felt a little bit like an antithesis to the message of the movie, but I don't know, who cares? I think I'm reading into it too much. Basically what I'm saying is that everyone in that movie theater was a star, and I was just among them, looking at them. I don't know. Oh, but something disgusting happened. So we're watching the movie. It's dark, obviously. And I'm eating my popcorn. And I got the flavored powder, the pickle one. So I got that. But after a while, like my fingers were so full of like wet powder. It was kind of disgusting. It kind of turned it into like a paste where like at one point my fingers felt like they were glued together. And then I actually pressed them together thinking like, I wonder how hard I can make it to separate them. Anyway, I was going to get my friend beside me to try and separate my fingers, but I'm like, I'm not going to wait till the end. I'm not going to keep my fingers like this till the end of the movie to play that stupid game. That's silly. Anyway, I'm using the napkins from the movie theater to try and wipe off this like pickle powder paste. It's not working because they're like cheap napkins. It's basically just ripping off on my finger. Like when you see in movies when like men shave their face and then they put little pieces of toilet paper or Kleenex or whatever, like those are my fingers. But I remembered that I had some hand sanitizer in my bag. So I reached down, grabbed my hand sanitizer, and I'm trying to squeeze it into my hand and it won't come out. And I realize it's an unopened little bottle. So whenever I screw off the top and I'm trying to like rip off the little seal with my fingers and I can't get enough of a grip on the little edge part. So I use my teeth, which I know you're not supposed to do. Okay, whoopsie. But I do that. And as soon as I do that, the vacuum seal got released and a huge glob. Oh, I can still, a huge glob of hand sanitizer just glopped into my mouth. And I am panicking, but I want to be silent because I hate when people talk in the movie theater. But I'm freaking out. It tastes disgusting. I'm in a bit of a panic. I'm just like, ugh, and I'm taking the napkins and like rubbing them on my tongue. And I'm trying to tell my friends beside me so silently and also not distractingly that like I have hand sanitizer in my mouth. It tastes disgusting. Even like the next day at a work Zoom meeting, I was using my microphone. I'm like, I think my microphone smells like cleaner or like something smells like cleaner. And I realize I have Purell breath. Like I have hand sanitizer breath for the whole next day. It wasn't good. Something I've been doing recently that's been bringing me some joy is assembling Lego that I got as a gift. I have been experiencing some grief lately. I experienced a loss in my life that's been fairly recent. And actually, Georgia and I in this episode end up talking a bit about it. And so some people around me, some of my loved ones have sent me flowers, which has been so lovely and thoughtful of them. And two of my friends together sent me Lego flowers. They sent me Lego's botanical collection, and it's called the Flower Bouquet. And it is beautiful. And it's a lot of pieces. I think it's like 750 pieces or something. So I've been slowly putting together like one flower every so often. And another friend gifted me this beautiful vase to put it in. And especially when you're grieving, I don't know, sometimes I think it's ironic that then we give flowers that are then going to die and I have to throw out the dead flowers. And there's something like weirdly ironic and cruel about that. Not to take away from the beautiful gift of receiving the flowers. But this was just a cool spin. Like, these flowers are never going to die. And I can just keep them out on display like a little piece of art. Anyway, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Liquid Courage, the podcast where I, Amanda Pereira, sit down with a fellow artist that I admire and ask them the questions I've never had the guts to ask them before. Sounds scary? Yeah, it really is. So I use a little liquid courage in the form of my guest's favorite drink. We cheers, chat, and connect as I attempt to soak up all the wisdom they have to offer. Today I sit down with Georgia Mappin and we drink some sparkling flavored water beverages. Georgia is a producer currently based out of Melbourne, Australia, with over a decade of experience developing advertising campaigns, original comedy, and TV and film content. The short film she produced, called Grace, was nominated by the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts for Best Short Film Drama. More recently, Georgia teamed up with the sketch comedy group Auntie Donna, might have heard of them, as their executive producer and the general manager of their production company, Haven't You Done Well Productions. You can watch Auntie Donna's award-winning show, Big Ol' House of Fun, on Netflix, and their most recent scripted series, Auntie Donna's Coffee Cafe, was released earlier this year on ABC. Georgia also oversees Auntie Donna's award-winning YouTube channel, Grouse House, where they create and distribute original content as well as local acquisitions. So Georgia is a general manager, an executive producer, and someone I admire immensely. God, I can't get over how legit your setup is and how gorgeous you look. Okay, hi Georgia, superstar, model, director. My director of the world. My voice just cracked saying hi to you because I got so excited. I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Second ever podcast in my life, I think.
Oh, that means that I have listened to 100% of the podcasts that you've been on so far.
Oh. You've listened to it. That was a very long time ago.
I gotta do my research, Georgia. Oh, I loved it. I loved hearing your voice, and oh, thank you. And I was like, some of the things you were talking about, I thought, oh, I know about that. Oh, I know what that show she's talking about. And for listeners and viewers, I should preface that I know you a little bit, but not very well. But we are working on developing a series together, and from day one that I got connected with you, my hands are getting sweaty. I just think you are so awesome. I think you are so talented. I'm just I feel so lucky to be working with you. So I'm very glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm very quickly moving on to the next thing because I'm so nervous. Can you tell? I'm not even stopping talking.
Stop. I'm going to pop my drink if that's all right.
What you read my mind.
Am I
was
allowed
to start off. Yeah, okay. Can you crack it open?
Okay.
Nice
so I have
crack.
Pink Lady sparkling apple water because it's 10 a.m. in Melbourne.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, it would have been a wine.
We'll do another one where it's whatever it is, 8 a.m. my time, 10 p.m. your time, and we'll do a wine then. I'm doing, I made this sparkling water at home with my machine, and then I put in some blackberry flavoring.
Fabulous. That's very bougie.
Right?
No, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for asking me. That was very, very flattering because the people you have on this podcast are just amazing. And so to be asked to be among the ranks of your guests is just really, really nice. But speaking of, being impressed by amazing women, I have always been impressed by you. I am a producer who is constantly in awe of performers and people who put themselves out there on screen and on camera, and to showcase your vulnerability through podcasting and just be so open and honest just about your own journeys of your career and your life and all of that. I just am in constant awe of and I take inspiration of. So thank you for having me because you're fucking rad.
Oh my God, Georgia, I'm so sweaty now. That was so nice. I wore shorts today because I always wear pants in my office and then I podcast and I get sweaty because I get nervous and I'm like, Today wearing shorts, and thank God, because that was so wonderful. You are among the ranks. Yeah, the guests on here are awesome, and you are right there with them. Like, I'm so glad to have you here. And I guess to start off, so you started in advertising, producing, and then now kind of moved more into scripted series. And before we talk about your work as a producer, I'm going to ask you a really annoying question, but I feel like it's really helpful to the audience. So what does it mean to be a producer? What is a producer's job? That is such an annoying question, and I feel like we got to start there. You're not. Yeah, it is.
It is an annoying question. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, it is. It is, but we got to do it.
I think what it means to be a producer is, well, the way my interpretation of what it means to be a producer is amplifying your talent. It's, you know, it's finding the balance between, I guess, the creative and the financing, and walking that very thin ledge of, you know, the end goal, trying to find the end goal of getting it up and made on screen. To me, it's not about me. My job and my role in my world is about amplifying everyone around me and giving them a platform and helping them achieve their end goal, which is usually, you know, having something produced, having something on screen. Yeah, I think it's just about being a pillar of support and guidance and, yeah, just offering your skills to someone who has, yeah, just put themselves out there and done that really hard job of taking those risks and believing in themselves and, yeah, just helping them get to where they want to be. That's genuinely what I believe producing is. It's taking a back seat to talent and guiding them along their journey and, you know, achieving their end goals with them.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like finding that balance between the creative and then the like logistical or the financial. And I don't know, I feel like that can be such a nightmare when you have a nightmare, not because of the people, but just that, you know, sometimes budgets are small or dreams are always big, and, you know, and finding that line. And also that when you're working with creatives, they might not always know, and rightfully so, they might not always know what something costs. They might write a scene and not realize, ooh, you just made that, like, that new scene you just wrote is 3 times more expensive than the scene you wrote before it. And so how do you kind of manage, feels like a condescending word, but I don't mean it that way. Like, how do you manage the dreams of the creative with like the budget that you have, with the expectations or the requirements of like funding bodies, with the desires of the network? Like, how do you managing all that, walking that line?
Never saying no. So I think, you know, that's always the hardest part. And, you know, it takes inspiration from performing and improv, right? You know, you never say no, you never shut it down, you never block.
Yeah.
You know.
Good job, Georgia. Oh my God, you're a performer too. What are you talking about?
No, yeah, that's what it is to me. It's never saying no. It's always saying yes and. So it's always in the room. You read a scene. For example, when we were in scripting phase for Auntie Donna's Coffee Cafe, which is a show that we've recently made in Australia, we originally took the first pass on the scripts, and we read that there was a scene where the cafe fills with water. And it was a hilarious scene, and it was 100%, you know, Auntie Donna, and it would have been great on camera, but we couldn't feasibly afford filling up our set with water. So it just was like, this is great, let's look into it, take it offline, research how it would work if we did that idea, you know, really cement and validate the fact that we couldn't afford it first, and then go back in and be like, great, what's a creative way we can adjust this so it comes back to being within budget without losing the essence of the comedy of the scene itself, and without shutting down the writers, because shutting anyone down creatively is the opposite of, you know, what you want to do to get a good result. So, you know, always making sure that everyone in the room has a voice. Every investigation into achieving your common goal has been looked into, and coming back and finding a compromise and a solution together.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the filling up with water. I wrote a scene about the room filling up with water, and very quickly I was like, maybe it's just like a bucket drops. Like, and even that, you're like, what place am I renting to shoot this scene? Can I drop a big bucket of water? And you're like, what is the emotional equivalent of it filling up? We can't all be James Cameron, you know what I mean? And like completely simulate the Titanic. Absolutely. So what
ended up being CGI bees. So it went from a room filling up with water, and then now at the end of the first episode, it's wasps actually. So it was the same idea. The joke could stay the same, or at least in a similar space, and the thing that filled the room ended up just changing to something more affordable. That was the compromise.
Yeah, I find personally, like, as a creative, when I'm writing or trying to think of something, I think maybe because I have an A-type personality. I like budgets. I like logistics. I kind of love when it's like, this is too expensive, because it's really just coming up with creative solutions where the stakes are the same and the emotional kind of like journey might be the same, but it's not going to be water. What can it be? Like, I think that's such a fun challenge, because if you come up with one great idea, you are always going to be able to come up with another great idea and another great idea and another one. So I don't know. I find that kind of like creative problem solving, it's sort of like a high. I love that kind of stuff. So
yeah, so do I. And it's exactly that, but all the time. In everything, I was
every email, every single decision.
Pretty much, yeah. It is finding a creative solution. I was talking to Mark the other day, and we were just talking about a project that we're working on, and he gave me like one of the best compliments I think I've ever received in my career, and he said, "I'm always just so impressed with your creative producing. Like, you were very creative with your producing." And I thought that was really cool, because I've always kind of called myself, I guess, a bit more of an opportunist, but that has really negative connotations, strangely. But I do like to look and, leave no stone unturned when it comes to opportunities. But he said, no, you're really creative with your producing. You're not just a producer, you're a creative producer, but not in the other realms of creativity. It's just very creative with your producing. And I was like, that is a really nice thing to say.
That is a really nice compliment. Well, and I know you've spoken about like that you have a hard time kind of, and this was a while ago, this was in the Infamous podcast, but you had spoken about how you kind of have a hard time calling yourself a creative, and like that you don't see yourself necessarily that way. Is that still the case? Like I thought, oh my God, Georgia, you're so involved in the projects that you create. Like, so many of your projects some of them are other creatives collaborating with you and joining with you, but you also have maybe like the equal number of projects where the creative like core seed of an idea was from you, like where you pulled in this story or this idea and said like, this should be a series. So yeah, I don't know. How do you feel nowadays with the idea of like you and the title creative?
It's funny because when I did that podcast, it was a long time ago now, but I was in advertising, and I felt very siloed from the idea of ever having creative involvement in my outputs in that industry. Whereas moving over to longer form projects, working in the online space, executive producing and general managing a production company, I feel very involved. I feel very creative. I'm very confident in saying that I'm a creative person now.
Yeah, hell yeah, you are.
And in that industry, you are very, just siloed, I guess. You are in charge of the budget and the schedule, and you don't have really any input or say over the creative or typically creative elements. Whereas on this side, and I guess like it's also the team that I work with as well, working with the Donner boys, they're just amazing, and they're so involved, and they love everyone to be involved, and they're so collaborative, and everyone gets to call themselves creatives here. It's really nice.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that, because I feel like that, I don't know, that aligns more for how I see you as well. I'm like, what the hell is she talking about? Of course she's creative. Yes, she's a creative. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like when I think about the different projects that you've created or that you've been involved in, I was just like reflecting on it before we were talking today, and I'm thinking like, okay, lots of comedy, but always like with a twist, like always with a like a dark comedy or like a wacky out there comedy or horror comedy. And like I'm curious for you when you think about your projects, like what kind of projects are you attracted to? What do you like gravitate towards wanting to invest all of your time and efforts and resources and creative producing into getting made?
Yeah, I think here we probably say very clearly it's comedy with edge. So comedy with a twist is exactly how we like it.
No, I like edge better than a twist.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
It's not your typical commercial broad audience focused comedy. It's not. Here we have our commercial broadcasters, Channel 9, Channel 10, Channel 7. We've never looked at our projects as really ever having the pathway to go towards those major commercial broadcasters. We don't even throw them out in our conversations because our projects just are not that. They're not for an older audience typically. They're more skewed towards the online space, which means you can take more risks, and they're more skewed towards a younger demographic who want typically things they haven't seen before. So we're not focused on making general comedies that live for a very broad audience. It's typically niche. It's typically weirder, and it's typically projects that will find their audience, but then also have people that do not like them at all, and that's fine. That's fine. Everyone has different tastes, but that's our focus. That's what I'm drawn towards. Is something that I haven't seen before, something that we say in our development team here all the time is that we don't want to follow trends, we want to set them. We don't want to make the next Ted Lasso, even though that's what every commissioner is saying at the moment. Oh, we want the next Ted Lasso. It's like we don't want to follow that trend because we'll already be 2 years behind it. We want to be the ones coming up and developing the next weirdest, wackiest, edgiest ideas that you just haven't seen before, because I think that's the most exciting part of TV. When you find a show that is new and it's different and you tell all of your friends about it and then people come up and they watch it and then you talk about it, like that shit is really cool. And that's what I want to be doing and what I want to be known for and what I want this company to be known for, because I think that's the most exciting part about this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it's funny because I feel like intuitively, I guess, like you think the broader audience stuff is easier and the niche, more like edge, comedy edge or comedy with an edge stuff is harder. But I actually think that's because of how we're taught to be as people. Because I think I think the comedy with an edge stuff, or anything, really just anything that's niche, is just because it's super authentic to that creator and that creative team. And anything broad is you're trying to guess what people want, anticipate their needs, and deliver it to them. But that doesn't mean it speaks to the core of who you are. And so really, if we were all just like embracing the authentic, our brand of weird, we would be making unique. I tried to say niche and unique at the same time. Unique content. We would all be making unique content. So I love that. Like, I think that is actually easier if we get out of our own way and allow ourselves to be, like, to speak our own kind of truth or speak from our own voice. The niche stuff actually becomes easier and authentic. And I think audiences pick up on that. And I don't know, I'd rather, like, somebody hate my show than forget it existed right after they watched it. Like, I want to make 100%. Some kind of impact,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's such a waste of time, waste of resources, waste of money to not make an impact. I don't know. It's just, I was on Netflix the other day and I was like, everything is the same. I'm not excited by anything on here because it just feels so algorithmic, where every show is, it feels very broad. It feels like they're all marketed in the same way as well, where like nothing has like a really severe point of difference and nothing is exciting. I just find that like I don't have the time anymore to be watching average TV. If it sits in that kind of 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, like I'm not gonna go watch it. It needs to be 7 and above for me to be like, all right, I'm going to invest my time into this.
Yeah. Or sometimes if it's a 1, I'm curious. And I'm like, sure, give me the 1 out of 10.
For a different reason, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I watched like a 3.5 out of 10 shark movie the other night. And I was like, this is horrible. And like, I'm so glad I spent the last hour and a half watching this. Like this, the fin in the ocean, the fin went down into the water, but the CGI shadow stayed for way too long and then just disappeared. And I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. Also, how did this get made and like my random whatever movie that I wrote couldn't get made? Anyway, but yes, I'm with you. Yeah.
It's exactly that. But I like what you just said about it all coming back to like amplifying that authenticity, because that's just, I think, part of how I produce in general. Like, my job isn't to sit here and tell someone how to make a show. It's not, hey, you need to tick this box, and this box to be able to get this made. The way that, you know, I like to produce here is to just take an idea in all its glory and all its imperfections, and then find that concept a home, not to try and push a square peg into a round hole just to get it commissioned. You know, like, if you just want to make a TV show and you just want to get something on air, don't pitch me, because there are a million other producers out there that'll be like, great, well, these are the boxes you need to tick. These are the people we're going to take it to. This is how broad you need to be. You know, rework your creative into that framework. Whereas I like to look at it as if the show is the show, and, you know, if a broadcaster likes it, they like it, you know, and if they want to take a risk, they're going to take a risk on it. We all kind of have the same opportunities. It's just whether we want to focus on, you know, being authentic to ourselves, being authentic to our projects, and amplifying what we want to make, rather than what we think commissioners want to buy. I think there's two trains of thought with it. And I think I focus more on that creative side of things and protecting creators and their vision, rather than forcing them into doing something that they don't want to do.
Just to get something made. That's so interesting, because I think that's a really hard, and I'm just speaking like from my experience or friends, like, it's a hard space to be in, to know when to compromise, when to not, when to be like, okay, well, I'm going to stick to this, even if it means the funding goes away, maybe somebody else, because you don't know if another funding body will come along, and you hope that they do. You hope that another one and the right one comes along. But like, that can be scary. And I would imagine it might be scary for creatives that you're working with. If you're like, listen, we don't need to compromise this. If they want to go with it, they will. And if they don't see the vision, they'll walk away. It's like gutsy, and it rings so with like such integrity. Like, I want to be like, yeah, fuck, get that tattooed on me. Like, I want to go that way. And also I'm like, sure, you want me to make it bees? I'll make it all bees. There'll be no water. I will never drink water again. It will be bees if you'll give me money to make the show. You know, so that it's a hard. Did you always have that conviction, that gutsiness, that sense of integrity, or did that come with experience and time in producing?
It's funny. I think I did. I think I did, because I just think back to the moment that I had a meeting with probably one of the biggest executive producers for one of the biggest independent Australian production companies in Australia. He wanted a series of mine that I had developed with my father before he died. And it was very close to my heart, obviously. It was, you know, kind of how I got through my grieving process. It was a dark comedy about cannibalism. And he wanted it. And we met, and I had lunch with him, and we sat in this meeting, me and my business partner, who was an older male, and the executive producer at the company did not look me in the eye the entire time. He only spoke to my business partner, even though it was my show, from my father. He would ask questions, I would answer them, and then he would speak directly to my business partner. I did not exist in his mind. The young woman in the room was just not someone worth speaking to or even looking at. It was horrifically demeaning, I think, you know, and in that moment, I think I was like 24 or 25. I was like, fuck this guy. I don't care who he is. I don't care what power this guy comes with and how he could get my show made. I could probably get it up in a year with this guy. But honestly, fuck this guy. Can't look at me, can't talk to me because I don't mean anything to him. I don't know. I don't even understand what the motivation was. Yeah, but he only spoke to the other white male in the room. And from that moment on, I was like, no, he doesn't get my show. And I went with a different production company, and it didn't get made. And I don't feel regret about that. I don't feel upset. I don't feel like I made the wrong decision. I feel like if I did give the show to him, my dad would probably roll in his grave because you know,
Yeah.
I went against kind of what I believed in. And, you know, if there was anything my dad did teach me, it was don't fuck with people that, you know, I don't know, don't look at you, don't talk
Look
to
at
you,
you.
that
I was
don't
gonna
see
say,
you.
don't even
Yeah.
acknowledge your existence. That is, I think that is like such a an amazing gift to instill, like, trust your gut instinct in this. Like, if you feel off with this person, period. Like, that's it. That's good. Because you're right. Even if he could get it made in a year, that's going to be a long year. And what is that show going to look like? A show can change so much from like an idea, even a finished script, to like the end product can change so much. And you really have to, like, well, you know, I mean, you're the person people are trusting with their, you know, you have to trust the right person to take this baby and help it grow with you. And so,
yeah, and I did not trust him. And I've seen shows he's done since, and yeah, they've not been great. And each show he makes now, it kind of validates that decision that I made, in knowing that I made the right choice, because I think he would have changed it completely just to get it up. He would have turned it into something that the commissioners wanted, just because he wanted to sell it, not because he believed in the concept or the vision. He just believed that he could make money off of it. That was the vibe that I got. And I was like, that's just not someone I want to partner with. And then when I started doing it and started doing this role, I was like, yeah, that's never what I want to instill with the people around me, because everyone around me is so talented, has brilliant ideas. They just don't know how to get it made. And it's like, I know how to get it made. But I'm not going to, change that vision, because that is what makes you so good, that vision. And someone will buy it. I just believe that good ideas will get bought. You just have to sell them in the right way.
yeah.
You don't need to change everything just to get something up, even if it's the quicker option. I think it's the lazy option. I genuinely do. It's kind of like the lazy option. Change this and this and it'll get up. And it's like, that might be easier. But
it doesn't feel as good.
It's better.
Yeah, I know. I'm realizing as you're talking, like, wow, this also sounds like dating. It's like you could change yourself so that the person you're on a date with likes you more. And it's probably easier, and you might get married quicker if that's the goal. But you're going to feel like crap. So maybe just stick to who you are and know that the right person's, I don't know. I'm like, wow, this is like this could be dating advice too. As two people in long-term relationships, let's give dating advice. I'm like, something I learned about you in my research that I did not know was that and you correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know, the internet could be wrong. It says in 2016 you worked production on Australian Survivor.
I did. I lived in Samoa for 3 months on the first season of Australian Survivor.
Are you kidding?
And like, look, people always get so excited, especially if they're big Survivor nerds, which is awesome.
Yes,
but
such a reality TV fan. And bad.
It was the worst job of my life, Amanda.
Was it? Literally, I was gonna be like, what was that like? I didn't realize you were on location. Why? Was it the people? Was it the location?
It was an extremely toxic work environment.
Oh no!
And I don't know how much I can talk about it, because I probably signed my life away in an NDA.
So fair. Yep. So fair. So fair.
But I try and take silver linings from every terrible job I've ever had in my career. And I would say my biggest takeaway from that job is learning a lot about how not to run a production company.
That says it all. I thought you were going to be like, the silver lining was that it ended.
That too.
My last day came.
The disposability in broadcast TV, I think, is one of the most toxic things that exists in this industry. And it's not something that I would ever, recommend to anyone as something that you have to do to make it. Again, the people that I worked for on that show were, toxic is probably the clearest way to put it. I experienced a lot of emotional manipulation. I would even come down to say, it was like abusive in a way, you know, like I had this production manager, and she clapped in my face, like full on clapped in my face because I was giving her attitude because I said I didn't want to come back for a season 2. Like the entire season they go, well, if you don't do this, like we're not going to ask you to come back for season 2. And it was like that the whole way through. It was just that we've got power over you. We've got something that you want, and if you don't do this, then you're not going to get it. I was like, the day that I was like, fuck it, I don't want to come back for season 2 if this is what it's going to be. They lost all power over me. And then I had a much better time, honestly. It was at the end. So, you know, I wish I realized it sooner. But yeah, goodness me. Not something I recommend working in reality broadcast TV.
In reality. Well, and I'm always curious, like, was it less real or more real than you expected it to be? Since, like, Survivor was already a show before then. You know what I mean? Were you going in being like, I don't think this is real. And then you're like, oh, wow, this is actually very real. Yeah. They are cooking rice over a fire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Fly on the Wall producing. And I was shocked by that because I assumed it would be very, like, heavily produced. But it's not. It's guided.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And stories are guided because, you know, you have to build them in the back end and in the edit. But very, very light touch. I thought it was very cool to see because I've heard stories from other shows which are very much the opposite and very involved from the producers. And it's very unethical in how they get their stories out. And I have seen that firsthand on other series that I've worked across. The ethics are very questionable in that space, I would say.
There's like that. I don't know if you've seen that scripted series, and I'm forgetting what it's called now, but it's a scripted series. Yes. Is that about like the crew making like a Bachelor kind of show? Yes. Oh, I didn't see all of the episodes, but I watched the first like 6 or 7, I think. And I just thought, oh, this is so dark and so good. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why like now on so much reality TV, it's like you have to have on-site therapists for all of the contestants, which I'm also like, but who are the therapists working for? Anyway, love reality TV. Trying to that is my one thing I talk to my friends about, like let's consume it ethically. What does that mean? How do we do this? I don't know if there's a way.
I don't think there is, genuinely. I think when you're dealing with real people, and you're trying to get millions of views and that's the goal, then your tactics are probably going to be exploitative.
Yeah. It's like literally the opposite. It's literally what we were just talking about like that shouldn't be the goal. Yeah. Yes. Should be. No. Yes. Okay, let's talk about something that aligns with your heart and you much more than reality TV is working with Auntie Donna. Okay, so in the last few years, and I'm realizing I know it was during COVID, but I don't know exactly when because the last 3 years seem like one long day or something. So since then, so you are now the executive producer for the sketch comedy group Auntie Donna and the general manager for their production company, Haven't You Done Well Productions. I love the cheeky little wit in that production company name. So how did you get involved with working with Auntie Donna? Like, how did that come about?
It's funny. It's been a very long journey the way I look at it. I think the boys are like, oh, we've known Georgia for a year, but I've known Donna for over 10 years. I've been a huge fan of them for 10 years now since they did their first Fresh Blood series on the ABC. I did one similar on SBS, which are two non-commercial broadcasters in Australia, and they kind of had like emerging talent like platforms where you could just do open pitching at the time. And yeah, Auntie Donna did one and they released a video called Bikey Wars, and it was a long time ago, and I remember watching it and just being like, these guys are fucking hilarious and I love them. And I just kept up with them for years. I went to all their shows. Huge fan. And then I started working at an advertising production company, and I got paired as a producer with a director that worked in Melbourne. And so I was in Sydney at the time, and I got a call from one of the EPs saying, hey, can you come down? We're doing an ad. You'll be working with like our in-house director. And his name was Max Miller. And we called each other and I was like, hey, mate, like, oh, you know, tell me about yourself. You know, we're going to be working together quite closely. What do you do as, you know, like in the background? Like, advertising isn't the only thing when you're in advertising, usually, unless you're like a career advertising focused person. You usually have something else that you're doing. And I was like, what else do you do? And he was like, oh, I'm in a comedy group called Auntie Donna. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? I am so starstruck right now. I am a huge fan. Huge fan. And he was like, oh, like, really? Like, they weren't huge at the time, but they were, you know, doing shows and doing their thing. And this was way before Netflix and way before selling out tours and Coffee Cafe and all of that. And yeah, I was like, oh yeah, just a huge fan. I watch all your YouTubes. Like, whenever they're up in Sydney, I watch them. Yeah, like, really cool to be working with you. And then we worked together for a few years at that agency. We both left, and then I just kept, you know, pulling Max in for jobs at other agencies that I worked at, because I really enjoyed working with him. We had a really good working relationship. And then I came down to Melbourne. I moved down to Melbourne before COVID and worked across a few different companies. And then I EP'd at a smaller advertising production company, got Max in, and then he emailed me one day and was like, hey, I know you're really happy at your job at the moment as an EP, but we're looking for one. Would you have any recommendations? and I was like, I sat there for ages being like, is he asking me for recommendations or is he asking me if I'm available? Like, would I be interested? And I like just went completely imposter syndrome kind of moment. I was like, he's not asking me. He's asking if I knew anyone that was better that I could recommend to him. So I called him and I was just like a bit sheepish about it. And I was like, oh, like, would you be open to me coming in and having a chat with you guys and meeting everyone and interviewing? And then he was like, oh my God, of course, I would love for you to come in, like, please, like, you would be great. And I just like felt this huge sense of relief being like, oh no, okay, that would be really nice. So I came in and I interviewed, I think my first interview was over Zoom with the boys because they were on tour. No, it was in person, and there's 6 of them. And that's really intimidating. But they had the forethought for that, and they split it up, and they did 3 and 3, so 2 interviews. And my first one, I did it in person with Sam, Zach, and Max. And I obviously knew Max, but I hadn't met Sam before, and I'd met Zach very briefly at Max's housewarming one year, and did the interview, and I was really nervous, and it all went really well. And then Max was like, come back and do a second one, meet the rest of the boys. And then that was on Zoom because the rest of them were on tour. So Tom, Broden, and Mark. And the night before that interview, Max was like, hey, we have a bunch of questions, you know, like, how would you run the company? What do you see, like, our brand doing long term to generate revenue? Like, how would you do this? And I sat there that night and I started writing up. I mean, yeah, pretty last minute, Max.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I'm like,
it was the night
God.
before. It was the night before he sent me those questions. And I sat there and I was like, I could just speak to them, or I could use my 10 years of experience in pitching, pitching for ads, pitching for shows, building decks, and I could just build a fucking presentation. So I like went in and I built like a whole Google Slides, and I did all this research about all of these companies that I would compare, like what our growth would look like towards, how I would build revenue, how I would, you know, elevate the Auntie Donna brand, how I would establish the Haven't You Done Well brand, all of this. And then that next day I presented it, and I was like a cartoon character with my nerves. I was shaking so much. I was like, you know, you lift a glass of water and it's like it's going all over you because
like
you're so
water
nervous.
falling
like
all over you. Yeah,
that was how nervous I was because I'd never put myself out like that, like out there like that. I'd never put so much effort into an interview. I don't think I slept. Tom, my husband, called me a monster because I was just so like stressed and angry, and I kind of and then I did it, and it all sounded really good. They didn't give me that much, but a couple of days later, Max called me and he was like, "You got the job. Here's the offer." We went back and forth a bit, and then I said no. I turned them down.
Did you really?
Yep, I turned them down in my first go, and then that night I turned them down because I was having a weird moment between, because I just recently become a mother at the time as well. Like I had a 10-month-old baby, and I had a full-time job. I had like full-time employment, and then moving over to Donna, it would have been a 12-month contract. With the option to extend beyond that. And at the time I was like, wow, it would be so selfish of me to give up secure work to take on a short-term contract for something that I think is more aligned with my goals. And I went really, like, I beat myself up about wanting it, because I was like, oh, it's not just about me anymore. It's about my daughter and my family. And that is a really selfish decision. And we just kept saying that. I was like, it's really selfish to want that. And I was just so mean to myself looking back. And then that weekend I went to a comedy show, and I went with my friend, and I was like, look, it's my dream job to work with these boys. I've been such a fan of them for so long. It's exactly what I want to be doing in this industry. And then she was like, you're not being selfish, dude. Like, you're beating yourself up. You're putting way too much pressure on that. You're calling it your dream job. If your daughter came to you and said she's got her dream job on the table, but she's afraid of like giving up a full-time secure role for a shorter term contract, what would you tell her? And I was like, no, I'd tell her to go after a dream job. And then she was like, yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that. You should follow your own advice. I was like, oh, you're right. And then I called Max on Sunday, and I was like, if it's still open, I would really like to take it. And he was like, yeah, it's still open. And then, yeah.
He's like, what mixed messages too? It's like, here's this beautifully prepared, like, clearly I gave a shit, and I like put together this presentation. I'm going to turn you down. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm coming back. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not it's leading by example. Like 100% I agree with your friend. If your daughter was like, this is my dream job, but what if other people, like what if it hurts other people? It's like, it's not, it's actually going to help. It's going to show her like, look, this is what you do. Like, you go after the thing, and it's possible to go after the thing, and it's worth it, and you deserve it. Like, I think, I don't know, I tell some of my mom friends, if they're feeling guilty about things, I'm like, the best thing you can do for your kid is like take care of your mental health, or like go after your dreams. Like, show them how to treat themselves by treating yourself that way, you know? And I think it's like such a gift to your daughter that you're like, yeah, I'm going to go after my dream job, and my daughter's going to get to grow up watching me like kick ass at my dream job. Like, that is amazing. That is so fucking cool.
I love that. And the same way my dad taught me to have that integrity about my career and what I decided to do and following my gut and everything. Like, I want to give that to Arlo as well, and just show her that, you know, she can do whatever she wants, and she should listen to her gut and trust herself and follow her dreams. And I think that was the best gift he ever gave me. I would love to give that to her as well. Yeah. And that was part of it. So yeah, that was how I started with them. And then that was, probably like over a year ago now. And now, we're partners, and we, you know, work on 3 brands together, which is really cool. And I love every minute of it.
And has it, like, I wonder, like, has becoming a mom, because you had so much experience working, you weren't new to the industry when you became a mom. Like, you had already been working there for so long. So how did becoming a mom make you look at the industry, like the way that it works, differently? Or did it make you look at it differently and like, oh, why do we do it this way? Or like, this is not helpful, or this makes it so much harder for like humans to be humans. Or I guess I'm curious, like, how becoming a mom shifted your perspective on the industry, the entertainment industry, as like a workforce, or if it did.
It didn't at all. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't encroach on anything. If anything, it gave me more confidence in kind of who I was and what I was capable of. But it didn't really influence or affect how I saw my career or this industry in any way. Just very, I think I silo it a little bit as well. I think, you know, parenting is parenting, and your job and your career is in a completely separate realm, and they don't really cross over all that much. I mean, sometimes Arlo comes into the office when she's homesick.
Aww.
But that's
so
it.
Sweet.
There's not much crossover at all.
Yeah. I was listening to this podcast where I think it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she was saying, I think it was her. Oh, I'm forgetting. Anyway, where they were saying basically like they were working with this director who wanted to be home for their kid every day at 6. And so the entire scheduling was like, I'm home for dinner. Like, I don't care. That's what the scheduling of this series is. And she was like, I think her kids at that time were like grown and whatever. She's like, I had never, that wasn't even an idea that popped into my head that was a thing we could do in the industry. And I think because this industry is primarily or has been primarily run by a similar type of person for a very long time, it's kind of set up to function for that person, for a older cis white man, and it works for them. And I think sometimes it takes somebody else being in charge to be like, no, actually the way that we're running things like doesn't make sense. So I'm going to, and there's no like reason to do it that way. It's just because we've done it that way. And
I tell you what, I was terrified coming into this job as a parent. Like I hadn't, just coming out of COVID, it was still like an adjustment phase, but it was COVID and coming back from maternity leave, which was all very new to me. And I knew I was walking into a situation where it was me and 6 men. I did not know 5 out of the 6 of them. Like I knew Max really well, but
whatever
the other
that
5,
percentage is terrifying. Yeah.
The other 5 were very new friends, and walking in as someone in a very senior position, and then also being a mum, and then at the time also having a daughter who had health issues that pulled me away from work quite often, and also being in a writer's room for a new ABC show. My first day with the boys was the first day of the writer's room for that show. So it was just kind of like thrown into it. It was like, hey, catch up on 15 years of interpersonal relationships with Auntie Donna, catch up on how to run a production company, catch up on EPing a new TV show for the ABC. It was huge. And then that following week, we were also shooting another series for Grouse, which is our second YouTube channel. So it was a lot all at once. And that plus the fact that Arlo was getting sent home from daycare almost every single week made me terrified that, I was going to be looked down on because I was a mum. So I was very fearful of that. And then, that started happening because it was already going on. And I told the boys, they knew I was a parent. I had a young child. I walked in and none of them had kids. So that was even scarier, can't really empathize. One was about to have one, so on the journey, but hadn't actually had it yet. And I was so shocked in the best way possible in how understanding and supportive they were throughout that entire journey. I couldn't have honestly survived without them at that time, because, every single week it was a phone call from daycare. You have to go home, you have to pick her up. Everyone here was pushing huge hours trying to get stuff done for the show, and I was out, I was leaving, I was, still working from home and keeping up to date with it all, but I was so terrified that they would look down on me for that, and no one ever did. No one ever said anything. I don't think anyone here would have even thought a negative thought about it. It's just life, and I think that's how we should be about balancing our kids and our workload and all of that. They're both very important things. But they come hand in hand, And I thank them all the time for just being so gorgeous and understanding. Like, it's crazy. But I was very pleasantly shocked that was my kind of first foray into kind of having to find that balance, and to have them on my team is really cool.
Oh, that makes me even bigger fans of them. That's so wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, and and mostly when I ask other moms is also because I'm like, I'm a creative, and what if I want kids? A lot of the aspects of it scare me, and like, how do those two things go together? And so it's just, I really appreciate hearing experiences from every mom who works in this industry. Like, I really I really like value and hold tight to your experiences and things because yeah, it helps me feel like, oh, if I want to do it, maybe I could actually do it. Because in the beginning, I think I was like, I don't know how to ever have a kid in this industry. Like, it's going to have to be either or. And I see so many examples of like, no, it doesn't. Look at all of these like brilliant moms, brilliant creatives, brilliant human beings having brilliant lives. Like, they are all the things. And it's just, yeah. So it's really wonderful to hear. And you shared with me actually that you went through another big like change in your life recently, which I would love to ask you about. So you shared, and I don't know anything past this, but you shared that you had recently started the process of getting diagnosed as an adult with ADHD and with PTSD. And I'm like, oh my, and like I was, it was in text, so I was reading it. And it just seemed so like, oh yeah, so I don't know if that's of any interest. I'm like, what? This is so interesting. So what led you to seeking diagnosis for one or both or whichever you want to share about? I would love to hear about both. I'm so interested.
I'm not ashamed to say it, but it was TikTok.
Oh my God, Georgia, can I tell you, TikTok has, yes, no, I am with you. So many things. My friend was just telling me the other day, he's like, I think I have ADHD. And I'm like, TikTok? He's like, TikTok. Like,
TikTok, yeah. I mean,
TikTok.
Definitely not a diagnosis, but it led me to think about it more and realize that maybe it wasn't as normal as I thought it was. I've always been a hyper anxious person my entire life. I started having panic attacks when I was 12. And yeah, just a few things started resonating on TikTok and I was like, oh, maybe. And then I was in couples therapy at the time and I mentioned it to my couples therapist and she was like, oh yeah, look, that sounds like something you should probably look into. Like all of those things that you've mentioned are very key pillars. And then I got diagnosed through a psychologist, did all the exams and it wasn't a question either. Like I think it was something like, oh, if you get 60 out of 100, it's an indicator that you might. If you get 70 out of 100, it's, pretty solidly that you are. And then it's like if you get 80 and above, it's 100% that you have it. And then I got like 84 and 86 on 2 types and it was very, very much
very
clear.
definitive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like, yep, that makes sense. Just I got medicated for it. The medication has been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I'm so glad to hear
clearer, I'm less anxious. I don't have all the struggles that I used to have. I'm not as angry. I used to be so angry. The dishwasher didn't get done and I would just outburst. Just so mad all the time. Dinner's not done. So overwhelming. Every little thing is so overwhelming. And I don't feel that anymore, which is great. It's made me clearer and more focused at work instead of just like super scattered. And then it also led me to getting the PTSD diagnosis, which I didn't realize. I didn't know that one as clearly as I kind of like understood the ADHD. That was just very like, oh, it's this, here's your fix for it. And I was like, great, that's easy. It's not a part of like who I am as a person. It's just kind of like my makeup is a bit different and I take medication for it and it's good now.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's not like a part of my personality or anything in any way. The PTSD was a really interesting one because I didn't realize that I went through like years of grief therapy after my dad died. He died very suddenly when I was 24, so 6 or 7 years ago now. And it's just kind of fucked me up a bit, I think. That's probably the easiest way I can put it. I have been very fearful of my feelings towards it for the last couple of years. And yeah, it turns out that's a PTSD thing. It's like people kind of throw around the word trauma very easily. But yeah, this is something that I've been wrestling with for like 7 years and just not really understood it. It would just like kind of like be this monster inside of me and then something will happen and it'll get triggered and then I'll feel like I'm physically there in the moment that I found out. And yeah, it turns out that's PTSD. I was watching, that's how recent it was until kind of like I really understood it. But episode 4 of Succession, spoiler alert, or episode 3, essentially the Logan episode in the final season, that probably was the biggest trigger I've ever experienced because they find out in the same way that I found out, same kind of death, just intense heart attack. The moment that Shiv is like, Daddy, I had just this full PTSD reaction. I had a full panic attack. I was crying. I was like in fetal position watching that show. One of my favorite shows, like everyone. And yeah, it was just a huge reaction. And then I mentioned it to my psychiatrist and he was like, yep, that sounds like a pretty severe PTSD reaction. And then kind of, talked me through it and was like, you should probably go seek help for that. And I'm also not ashamed to say that I haven't sought help for it. It's something that I'm still quite afraid of. I'm not there yet. I'm still balancing out a few other things, with the ADHD and all of that kind of space. And PTSD is something on my list, but I have not gone down the path of getting that sorted. I did years of grief therapy. I thought I was good. I don't actually think it's something that you can fix. I think it's something you can manage and be aware of. But I don't think it's something you can fix. I think it's just something that you have to live with. And that's also hard to reconcile with.
Yeah, it might not be exactly like right now forever, but that it is always going to be there is something like the resistance to accepting that I can totally understand. And it makes sense that it's a mountain. Like it just seems so because like you had said with ADHD, it sounds like your experience with it is like, oh great, I like learned about myself. I learned how my brain works and like, oh cool, for the things that I'm struggling with as a result of that, there's a pill and like it happens to really help me and that's awesome. And for PTSD, it's like the work isn't going and finding the right pill for it, or like adjusting a prescription and working with the doctor to make sure that it's the right prescription for you. It's like, especially since you've already done the grief therapy, I'm sure it's also like, well, I already did the thing. Like, aren't I, what the hell? Like,
yeah, it is a lot of that. There was, and just recently I watched, someone that I work with quite often. Her name's Michelle Brazier. She's an amazing Australian comedian from Melbourne. She has a show on Paramount Plus called Average Bear. And that live show is all about her own relationship with her trauma and her grief. She lost her brother and her dad quite quickly in succession. And her take on grief was the only one that I've ever resonated with since losing my dad. But her view on it is it's that kind of similar space. It's not something that you need to overcome. It's not something you can overcome. It's something that you can get a better understanding of, but it's something that's going to be with you forever. So you may as well embrace it as part of you, not be afraid of it and silo it away. It's something that you can acknowledge and respect for what it is. And hearing that and watching that show changed my entire perspective of it, because it was always something that I was afraid of. It was always something that I would push down and push away and not want to accept in any way. And then I would have these outbursts and these reactions to triggering things and I wouldn't be able to control them. And then, watching that live show from Michelle just changed my entire view on it. I cried for like a couple of days after watching it. Like I just let it come. I let myself cry and I let myself feel all the feelings. And I feel much healthier because of it. I do. And I like have such great respect and, thanks to Michelle for, making that show, because it just, it really, really changed my entire outlook on it. And it's done that for a lot of people, which I think is really cool, because I don't think we talk about grief enough. I don't think we do. I think we're all as the human collective is all just very afraid of death. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to know about it. It's sad and it's scary. But I think if we did it more and we embraced it more, we might not be as fearful of it. So that's the journey I'm on with my own PTSD and grief.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll all be fixed or ever get fixed. I think it will always be a part of me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and at least talking about death more and grief more, especially grief more with each other, even even if the fear doesn't lessen, at least everyone will be less alone in their fear and less like siloed in their fear and less like we can both just be like, I'm really fucking scared of my loved ones dying instead of, and you can be like, me too, instead of me saying it in my head or being like, no, that's never going to happen. Because when it does, inevitably, somehow in your life, then it's gonna, I don't know. I guess then it's like I don't want to be alone in that space. So
it's a
let's
universal
bring some people
experience.
in now. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It is. You know, we all go through it. We all will go through it. Yeah. So the fact that we don't talk about it at all is, surprising to me.
I know. I think it's a very cultural thing. I guess cultural to North America and Australia. Let's just link, but there's so many similarities between because I do think that there's other cultures that see it differently and don't see it as a fearful as much or embrace it more, that it's more a community experience than an individualistic experience. Someone said to me like that with grief, like we often say, oh, it'll get easier, just time will make it easier. And someone said to me like, it doesn't go away, get easier. You just get more used to carrying it. Like your muscles get stronger or you just get used to the weight that it is on you. And so you're more capable of holding it, but it doesn't dissipate necessarily.
You don't overcome it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
You don't overcome. It's not something that you overcome. You just carry it with you and learn to carry it with you. You get better at that part. You get better at learning to carry it with you.
Yeah.
The more experience you have carrying it. But yeah, it never goes away. It never leaves you.
Has getting both of these sort of like diagnoses or these like being able to name these two things that you have experienced, you just maybe haven't like conceptualized or named in the same way. Has getting those diagnoses or naming it, like, has it brought you relief? Has it, because I think people like react into it, lands differently for different people, so has it brought you a sense of freedom or relief?
Yeah, as soon as I could label it, I was like, yeah, cool, great. Yeah, I'm good with that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a label to it. It's something. Here it lives.
Yeah.
And now I can move forward with that knowledge,
Yeah.
I can adapt what I do with that knowledge now. Not having the knowledge was the hardest part. Not knowing what was going on in my body and my mind when I was having like these reactions to things, especially with the PTSD, I was just very much like, I come with baggage kind of thing. Like Tom would always be like, oh, having another meltdown kind of thing. And it's just, yeah, well, you knew this when you met me. Like I come with baggage. But no, it turns out I was having a PTSD reaction. And now that I know that, I can understand it more and I can manage it better. They're still going to happen. They're not going to go away. But at least I know what it is. Yeah.
And for me, being able to name the things like this, for me it brings such a sense of self-compassion. Like I'm like, oh, it's not, why am I getting angry at this thing? It's like, oh, that's why I'm getting angry. Why wouldn't I get angry at that thing? Why wouldn't I crumble when I see that episode? Like, why wouldn't I? This makes so much sense. I've just been getting angry at myself like I'm a child or something, doing something wrong. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have so much compassion for myself because now I can be curious about it rather than judgmental and like inquisitive. And yeah.
So. I was really mad at myself when I had that like Succession breakdown. And then like 2 weeks later, Broden texted me and was like, hey, I just watched that episode of Succession. That must have been really hard for you. I don't even think I told him about my reaction to it. He just messaged me and it was just really nice and comforting. And I really appreciated it because I was like, yeah, it was really hard. And the fact that someone else saw that, I just thought was, it was just really validating. And I looked at it like, that's how I should have looked at it towards myself, Hey, that must have been really hard for you. Not, hey, you're a fucking idiot. Go control your emotions. you know?
Yeah. I mean,
which is how I did feel.
Yeah. I mean,
but then I would never say that. Yeah, I would never say that to someone else going through it. You just do it to yourself.
I know. That's the thing. Like, I get frustrated with my therapist. I always say, like, once I learn the thing, why don't I stop the behavior? Like, I know that I should treat myself like a best friend. I know that I should, like, treat myself how I treat my loved ones. So why am I not doing it yet? I get so impatient with, like, the behavior catching up with the learning. But that episode, actually, I've been struggling with some fresh grief lately of a different kind. But I might even tear up. I haven't gone back. I can't continue. That was the last episode I watched of Succession, and I'm like, I'm with you. Like, I can't imagine. It's much more directly related to your grief than mine. I don't even know if I finished the episode. I definitely got far in because I saw all the reactions, and oh no, I did finish that episode. I haven't gone back. I haven't finished the season. I don't know if I will. Maybe I will. Maybe my therapist and I will watch it over Zoom together, and I'll have her there with me. But I think it is, like, such an understanding response that you had. I would have guessed it would be a response. Like, I think it makes so much sense. But like you said, the self-compassion is a lot harder to have than the compassion for others. And these are just, like, more things that you are now, like, demonstrating for your daughter again. Like, you're going to have this understanding. You're going to have this self-compassion. You're going to have this, like, hey, I learned this about myself, and now I'm doing things to support myself. And she's just going to have all that observational learning from seeing you treat yourself that way. And then she's going to learn. So,
yeah, I'm sure she'll be fucked up in a different way, but at least not in those ways.
But at least she'll see. Yeah, exactly. But at least she'll be like, oh, okay, I got to figure out what the fuck up way is. Yeah. Okay, got it. Let's label the fuck up. I learned that from Mom. Let's label the fuck up. Yeah. Well, I don't want this to end. To close up with you, or to close out? Is it close up or close out?
Closing out? Yeah.
Closing out. Yeah. The ing actually really helped me. Okay. To close out today, it really did. To close out with you today, so I have heard you say, and again, this was a while ago. I think this was the podcast. It might have been in just speaking with you, but you've said that you are a TV person, not a movie person. So to close out today, I want to ask you, what is the last movie you watched that you loved? And what's a series that you're like, everybody has to check out right now? And the last movie can literally be like, you were a child and you watched, like, Cinderella. You're like, that was the last movie I saw that I love because I don't like movies. What's the last movie you watched you loved, and a series that you're like, everyone has to watch right now?
Okay, movie. And I'm going to say this one because I think it is a classic. And I think our generation is probably very aware of it, even though it might be on the cusp of, like, age-wise. Definitely the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Recently just rewatched that with my daughter, who is obsessed, just trying to wean her off the Baby Shark realm and put her in a different underwater annoying character space.
Keep her in the ocean. Yeah.
Recently rewatched the SpongeBob movie 20 times in a row, and I can say it holds up. It's pretty fun still.
Do you still like it, or is this like Stockholm Syndrome? Is this like you've watched it so many times? Yeah. Okay, great. A little bit of both. Yeah. Okay, I love that.
Goofy Goober is a banger. I stand by it. Definitely go check out the SpongeBob SquarePants movie if you haven't already seen it. It's on Netflix and Stan. I don't understand kids' distribution rights either. It's in multiple platforms in the kids space in Australia. You could probably watch it anywhere. So definitely the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Also, it had a sequel called SpongeBob Fish Out of Water, or Sponge Out of Water. That would make more sense.
Oh, probably Sponge Out of Water. That's a great name.
And they did like a 3D version, and I had never seen that before. So that's fun too. It's got Matt Berry in it, I think, as one of the voices, which is cool. The first one has the Hoff in it, and then also Antonio Banderas in the second one. So yeah.
What? Who?
Yeah, huge.
Fish? Who is Antonio?
No, he
playing?
plays the pirate. You know how at the start it goes, it's like the pirate sings the song.
Arr, mateys.
Yeah, he plays like a real life version of the pirate. So yeah, definitely the SpongeBob franchise.
All right, that's what I'm checking out this weekend.
Shows.
Yeah, TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, apart from like the god tier TV that's coming out of HBO at the moment with like Succession and Last of Us and all of those amazing series, probably two. No, the better one is probably Blue Lights. It's a police procedural drama that I've just been watching. Really, really well written, really gripping, but not in like a hooky way, just gripping because it's very, very good. And the writing is brilliant. So yeah, that's what I've been recently watching. It just came out this year. It's on SBS in Australia, but I don't know where you would be able to get it in Canada.
I'll find it. I'll find it, everybody.
And then I'm a sucker for like a good kind of like sci-fi series. And I think Apple are doing really well with those at the moment. Like I loved Foundation. Season 2's just come out, so excited for that. But I really enjoyed Silo. I think I said the word siloed like 10 times during this podcast, so I need to close it out with like a series called Silo. I really just liked it. It's got Rebecca Ferguson in it. I think she's fantastic.
She's in
I think
Dune. Is she the one in Dune?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh.
They would just, they'd probably halt production at the moment because they were in the middle of shooting the second season. The first season's just finished. And I couldn't wait, so I bought the books and I'm reading them at the moment and I'm really enjoying them.
Are they good? My partner and I just finished the series. We loved it. Actually, one of the previous podcast episodes, we were talking about like quotes, and I brought up a quote that one of the characters said when she is like, okay, spoiler alert, people, fast forward like 15 seconds. Harriet, I think, I forget what her name is, who has agoraphobia, and she's like walking herself out. And I actually said, in response to struggling with this grief lately, she said something and it hit my heart where she said, like, you're not dying, it just feels like you are. And I've been saying that to myself when I've just been like, just feeling like I'm crumbling. I'm like, you're not dying, it just feels like you are. And it has brought me such comfort. And I loved that show. We were so pissed at the end of the pilot because we're like, how long do we have to wait to find out? But it's so brilliantly acted. It looks amazing. The writing. Okay, so how is the book? Should I buy the book?
Yeah, well, because I'll watch a show and then I'll jump on the subreddit and I'll sit there for hours and just be like, all right, what does everyone else think? And like, what have I missed? And what, connections and theories does everyone have? Like, I love being part of the community that loves a show as well as watching a show. So, I jumped on the like Silo subreddit and was reading through all the comments, and there was a delineation between like the threads for the people who had read the books and then a thread for the people that hadn't read the books. And so I was naturally on the ones that hadn't read the books because I didn't want any spoilers. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just jump over and just have a little quick look and see what the people who had read the book said. Yeah, because I was curious to see like if they were happy with the adaptation. Because I'm also very curious to see how books have been adapted to TV. Like I love trying to get that understanding of like what they cut out and what they put in and how they changed it for a different audience. And
well, naturally too, with series that you have pitched and I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. You're doing the same thing. Yeah.
And so they were really happy with it. They were like, love the book adaptation to TV, like it's authentic to the original. And I was like, great, well, I should go read them. And then I read that the entire first season is just the first half of the first book of 3. So I was like, okay, if there's so much more of this, then I want to read it now because I'm very invested in this story. I want to know what else is going on in this world. I want to know, what's happened in the other ones, So when I found out that there was so much more story to cover, I was like, I got to read them because otherwise I'm going to have to wait like 5 years to finish and close off this story, which I'm too impatient for. So
no, me too. Yeah. And often too, like if they get a second season, well, not always, but sometimes they might delineate a little bit more from the books. Like, so, there's 2.5 books to read that have nothing to do with the show yet. So
exactly.
I'm in. I'm going to watch.
Considering all the strikes at the moment, I think TV is going to really, have a few issues.
Yeah. Books are making a comeback. That's what it is right now.
Yeah. So that's what I'm watching at the moment.
Well, maybe I'll start a little book club with you and I'll email you as I'm reading the Silo book and be like,
please, I would love someone to talk to about it because no one I know is reading them as well now. So definitely.
I'm going to literally when we end this, I'm going to order the first book to deliver to my house and I will let you know when it's in and I'll be like, where are you at? I'll let you know when I'm there. Cause I love like like post-apocalyptic sci-fi-ish. It's not really sci-fi, is it? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? Well,
definitely
I love
post-apocalyptic
that genre. Yeah, to dive into. So any of like the Hunger Games or Divergent or there was I can't remember. There was another one like The Boy with the Knife. Anyway, any of those stories where it's like a society that has formed after some sort of catastrophic destruction in some way, and now there's new rules, and why is it this way? And I'm like, ooh, show me alternate world. So, okay, cool. Well, let's start a book club. Let's do it. Little silo book club. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Georgia. This was such a pleasure. Like, it was so wonderful. And, you know, we don't often we never get just like a time to just sit and chat about things and get to know you better. So it's been truly a pleasure. I really value this time with you. It's been really wonderful. So thank you for coming on.
No, thank you. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Liquid Courage podcast. If you liked what you saw and you're looking to support the show, here's a few ways you can help. You can leave the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or you can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Liquid Courage Podcast. Or, and best of all, you can tell a friend about the show. Tell a family member, tell a coworker, post about your favorite episode online. Spread the word. That really is the best way to help support the show and help it grow. Did I just rhyme? Okay, until the next episode, cheers!